The canal's calm surface rippled, and a small, struggling head emerged, tiny, scaly, and frantic. A baby crocodile, no longer than her forearm, was trapped in a makeshift net, likely discarded by fishermen, its body thrashing in a futile attempt to escape. The net had snagged along an overhanging branch, leaving the young reptile suspended partially above the water, gasping and weak. A few early risers had begun to gather at the canal's edge, drawn by the commotion. Lila's heart sank as she saw them, some pointing and laughing, others shaking their heads, muttering about a useless nuisance, or leave nature to nature. The cruelty of human ignorance never failed to shock her, but she had learned long ago that hesitation could cost a life. Stepping out of her truck, Lila's boots sank slightly into the damp soil. She crouched near the water, her eyes never leaving the tiny crocodile. "Easy, little one. I'm here," she murmured, her voice calm but commanding, each word carefully measured to instill trust without startling it further. The reptile's tail lashed violently, sending small sprays of water across her jacket. "Don't touch it! It'll bite," a man warned from the bank, his voice edged with mockery. "They're helpless like that," a woman added, shaking her head. Why bother? Lila's jaw tightened, but she didn't respond. She had heard these comments countless times. What mattered was the creature's life, not their approval. Time was slipping away. The sun climbed higher, and the baby crocodile's struggles were weakening. Its tiny limbs were beginning to fail under the strain of the net. Her hands moved with practiced precision. She knelt at the water's edge, slowly lowering a rescue hook and cutting tools she had brought specifically for moments like this. Every movement was deliberate, every breath controlled. She had faced adult crocodiles, frightened herons, and trapped otters before, but nothing compared to the vulnerability of a newborn animal depending entirely on her. The crowd murmured, divided between awe and skepticism, as Lila carefully positioned herself. A slight misstep could rip the net tighter or send the baby plunging into the deeper canal. Lila felt the weight of every eye on her, and yet, in that intense focus, there was a strange serenity, a connection between rescuer and rescued. She leaned closer, her fingers steady, the sharp metal of the scissors poised against the fibrous strands. The baby crocodile twitched, sensing her approach. A soft whimper escaped its tiny throat, a sound so fragile it could have been mistaken for the wind rustling through the reeds. Lila whispered, "Almost there. Just hold on, little one." Suddenly, a dog barked from a nearby yard, startling the crowd and the baby, crocodile alike. It thrashed violently, tangling the net further. One of the onlookers gasped. "You're gonna get yourself hurt," another yelled. But Lila didn't flinch. She remembered her training, her countless hours in situations where fear could paralyze a rescuer. Her eyes scanned for leverage, the optimal angle to minimize stress on the animal. Slowly, methodically, she worked the net loose. Her hands wet, sticky with mud, but her touch gentle, coaxing rather than forcing. The baby crocodile's limbs were beginning to give, and the water had turned murky with its desperate movements. Sweat stung Lila's eyes, the early morning sun now hot on her back, but she ignored it. Every second counted. She spoke again, her voice low, almost a whisper. "I've got you. Just a bit longer." From the edge, someone finally moved closer, not to mock, but to observe in quiet wonder. A child, no older than 8, watched with wide eyes, gripping the railing as if afraid the baby might slip into the water forever. Lila's heart softened at the sight. Sometimes, she thought, the only thing stronger than fear was hope. Another twist came. The net had snagged on a submerged branch just out of reach. Lila's instincts kicked in. She waded into the shallows, the water icy against her skin, mud sucking at her boots. Every movement required care, too fast, and the baby could drown. Too slow, and exhaustion might claim it. She leaned forward, reaching for the net with one hand while steadying herself against the soft, muddy canal floor with the other. The crowd held its breath. The baby crocodile's whimpers were now weak, a stark reminder of its fragile state. Lila's fingers closed around the net, tugging it free, in a delicate maneuver that only someone with her experience could execute without panic. The tension was palpable. Each second stretched into an eternity. And then, for the briefest moment, time seemed to pause. The baby crocodile hung, trembling, free of its confines, eyes blinking up at her, as if recognizing the hands that had saved it. Lila felt a rush of relief, but she knew the danger wasn't over. She needed to secure it safely, to bring it to a place where it could recover, away from human interference and the unpredictability of the canal. Her heart pounded in her chest, not from fear, but from the weight of responsibility. Around her, whispers of astonishment replaced the mocking laughter. People were beginning to see, finally, the value of compassion over convenience. But even as she prepared to lift the tiny creature from the water, Lila's mind was already racing ahead. The nearest wildlife rehabilitation center, the water temperature, the baby's health. Every detail mattered. And just as she reached for the crocodile, another sound cut through the quiet morning, a splash, unexpected, and from deeper in the canal. Something else was moving, something larger, unseen beneath the ripples, watching, waiting. Lila froze, every muscle tense, realizing that the rescue was far from over. The morning had shifted. The canal that had seemed calm and still was now alive with urgency. Lila's eyes narrowed. She had saved many lives, but each one was a battle against time, against circumstance, against indifference. And this morning, she knew, was no different. The shadow beneath the ripples shifted again, larger this time, sending a shockwave through the shallow canal. Lila's heart raced, but there was no hesitation. She adjusted her stance, keeping the baby crocodile close to her chest, careful to shield it from any sudden movement in the water. Her eyes scanned the canal's murky depths, seeking the source of the disturbance. A sleek, larger crocodile emerged, a parent, perhaps, drawn by the frantic movements of its offspring. Its eyes locked on the baby, but it didn't attack. Instead, it circled, cautious, assessing the human who had dared to intervene. The onlookers froze, some backing away, whispers turning to gasps. Lila's voice rang out, calm yet commanding. "It's okay. I'm not a threat. I'm helping." Every muscle in her body tensed as she took slow steps backward toward the bank, careful not to startle either creature. The parent's gaze followed her, and the tension in the air was palpable, thick with danger and uncertainty. She felt the weight of responsibility more acutely than ever. This wasn't just about saving one life now. It was about respecting nature while preventing catastrophe. From the edge of the canal, a familiar voice called out, "Lila, step back." It was Daniel Reyes, a wildlife officer and longtime colleague. Within moments, a small team had arrived, vet Dr. Simons with a medical kit, and 2 rescue officers with specialized nets and protective gloves. Their presence brought a mix of relief and renewed focus. Lila didn't relax. She handed the baby, Crocodile, to Daniel with precise care, the tiny creature's trembling body now cradled safely. "We've got it," she said, but her eyes never left the larger crocodile, which now lingered near the water's edge, hesitant but watchful. The vet quickly assessed the baby, murmuring medical observations. Mild dehydration, minor abrasions from the net, but nothing life-threatening. Lila's shoulders sagged slightly with relief, though she knew the ordeal wasn't over. She watched as Dr. Simons prepared a secure transport container, lined with warm towels, the baby crocodile gently placed inside. The parent crocodile, still cautious, began to retreat slowly into the Canal, eyes lingering on its rescued offspring. Lila took a careful step forward, murmuring softly, "Go back. You're safe now." It slipped beneath the water, leaving only ripples in its wake. The crowd that had gathered murmured in awe, no longer mocking but full of respect. Some approached cautiously, offering apologies for their earlier words. Lila nodded, acknowledging their change in perspective without breaking her focus. "It's not about us," she said quietly. "It's about giving them a chance." Once the baby crocodile was safely in the van, Lila turned to Daniel. "Take it to the rehabilitation center. Make sure it warms up slowly. Check its vitals every hour." Daniel nodded, understanding the unspoken trust between rescuer and colleague. As the vehicle disappeared down the canal road, Lila sank to the bank, her boots muddy, her hands scratched, her clothes wet from the water. The early morning sun now warmed her back, but it was the quiet sense of fulfillment that made her feel alive. She had acted when others hesitated, had trusted her instincts, and a tiny life had survived because of it. The canal fell silent once more, but the lesson lingered in the air. Lila's gaze scanned the reeds and water, knowing there would always be more cries, more creatures in peril. She had no illusions that the world would stop being indifferent. But moments like this reminded her why she persisted. Her phone buzzed with a message from the Wildlife Center. "Baby is stable. Strong little one. Thank you for saving a life today." Lila exhaled, a mix of exhaustion and pride, and whispered to herself, "Every life matters. Every one." The moral was clear. Compassion wasn't passive. It required courage, patience, and decisiveness. Lila had faced danger, human skepticism, and the raw unpredictability of nature, yet her unwavering dedication had triumphed. The canal returned to its serene appearance, but beneath its surface, life had been given a second chance. And in that chance, hope endured. As she walked back to her truck, the wind carried the faint echo of the baby's earlier cries, now replaced by quiet breathing. Lila knew this was only one story among countless others, but in that moment, she felt the profound impact one person could have when they chose action over apathy, courage over hesitation, and compassion over indifference. The world often ignored the voiceless, but she would never stop listening.